majors fair. Right now, we are in the Zoom session with the College of Arts and Sciences. We have Deborah Littleton here, Martha Earwood, and Liz Quiznoff, okay? And make sure you all ask some great questions. You know, I mean, you all ask me questions all the time in class, but you have the experts right here in those majors and fields where you can ask those questions, okay? All right, thank you all so much for being here.
Hey, good morning. So my name is Deborah Littleton. I'm the director of CAS Academic Advising. So I advise for criminal justice majors. We have Professor Martha Earwood with us today. So she teaches in the Department of Criminal Justice, but she is our internship coordinator for criminal justice students and digital forensics. We also have Liz Quiznoff with us today. She's one of our advisors in CAS, and she advises for computer science as well as digital forensics. So we are here to, just talk about those different majors. Professor Earwood's going to give us some perspectives in terms of job possibilities for criminal justice, digital forensics, and things like that. Liz, do you want to go ahead and maybe talk about digital forensics?
Our digital forensics program is fun and neat and cool in that we combine two different programs on campus. So we take courses from our criminal justice department and from our computer science department and meld them into this kind of interdisciplinary, joint program. So when you're in this, or if you were to choose this major, you would not see classes that are like DF 101, DF 201. You're either going to be taking CS courses or CJ courses along the way as your major requirements. With our computer science side of things, and this applies to folks that are interested specifically in computer science as well, we have a pretty heavy emphasis on math. So if you feel like math is just really not in your wheelhouse, that is something to think about. That's going to be something you'll be required to go through for the computer science side of things. So for my digital forensics major interests, you'll be working through pre-calculus trigonometry, which at UAB's Math 106. For my students that are interested in computer science, you're going to be going through at least Calculus 1. If you're doing our Bachelor of Arts program, our Bachelor of Science program goes even farther into Calculus 2, linear algebra, another upper level math elective. So computer science gets very intensive into the math element outside of the major classes themselves. So that's just something to be prepared for. And that's really the thing that I like for students to know off the bat is please be prepared for math. Really what you'll see is our computer science classes work up to the 100, 200, 300 level. And then our criminal justice classes within our curriculum really advance into the 400 level pieces where you're getting those hands-on applicational skills.
What internship opportunities are there?
That is going to be something I'll fully defer to Professor Earwood. She's our internship coordinator and knows all things about that.
Sure. So, Deborah, I know it wasn't my turn, but I'm going to just jump on the question lest I forget the question. Internships in digital forensics are highly recommended. You can use an internship as your capstone experience. So generally, it's not something you would do until your senior year because you really need to have those upper level CJ courses in digital forensics so that you know how to do things like how to collect open source intel, how to do something with it, how to generate reports. But typically, students have the opportunity, maybe if you're interested in a long-term career in law enforcement at a law enforcement agency where you're doing investigations online. We have a really great relationship with the Birmingham Police Department, and I have 2 students over there every semester now working in the real-time crime center, and the students are collecting data, they're analyzing data, they're working with detectives on real cases, collecting open source intel, and generating reports that are used in prosecuting cases. So that's kind of cool. Some students have the opportunity to apply for federal level internships. That includes the FBI. Those internships have to be applied for generally about a year ahead of time. And if that is something you become interested in, the sooner you talk to me about that, the better. so we can make sure we make all the deadlines and that sort of thing. Some students are more interested in private sector work because the truth of the matter is companies have to protect themselves from themselves, believe it or not. And so digital forensic skills are used in investigating things with that banks, financial institutions. We have a student this semester that's interning at Brassfield and Gorey, which is one of the largest construction contractors in the Southeast. They've built a number of buildings that we even have on campus, so that's kind of cool. But they also have to protect their themselves from themselves, and when there's breaches, they have to figure out how they happened and what they're going to do to repair those things. So those are just some of the opportunities that we have in digital forensics for internships. I've been amazed that a lot of students have found things online. Large corporations are really turning up the heat on having good intern programs because they know it's a streamline to help them get good employees. And there are a lot of government contractors too that are cranking up their intern opportunities as a pipeline to get good employees as well. So in digital forensics, there's usually never a shortage of jobs, that's for sure. And you'll learn all about that when you take classes with Gary Warner and Laura McCluster in our and when you get into those classes on the criminal justice side.
I'll talk about the internships for computer science.
Yes. Okay. So for computer science, we actually don't have the accreditation to offer course credit for internships. So we highly encourage any student that has the time and resources to pursue that type of opportunity to go for that, because it is beneficial for every student, regardless of major, to have internship experience. We just don't have a course number associated with it the way digital forensics does, in a way a lot of other majors do. So we really encourage our computer science students to work closely with our career center to investigate those types of opportunities. The upside to not having that kind of siphoned through a course is that you really don't have any restrictions on the type of internship you could pick up. So anything and everything is the world is your oyster in that way. Kind of downside of that is that it's not regulated through our department. So it's not something that is quite as heavily facilitated through our department the way that it is through the criminal justice side of things. So at that point, we really like to get our students connected with the Career Center, get connected with our platform, Handshake. That's really the number one resource that we can refer students to for computer science internships. And then beyond that, truly any type of applicational skill that you can think of within computer science will have internship opportunities associated with it. So if you're looking into like network administration, that type of thing, there will be internships associated with that out in the community. If you're looking at software development, you will be able to find opportunities and internships related to that type of work and so on. If you're interested in cybersecurity, that kind of gets more into the types of opportunities Professor Earwood was just describing. So there are certainly opportunities abound out there associated with those types of work. It's just not something that necessarily goes directly through our department. We don't have an internship coordinator. We don't have a course number associated with it, but we do highly encourage students to pick that kind of thing up. I always encourage students too to look at the types of listings for internships on Handshake and see if those postings ask you to have any types of programming skills prior to the internship itself. They might request that you have experience in Java or experience in Python, and that kind of gives you an idea of how soon you should be looking at those opportunities.
What year do students tend to get internships?
Typically, they'll look at that summer between their junior and senior year. It gets a little more complicated to hold one of those during the fall and spring semesters just because our curriculum is pretty rigid for computer science. You will see your courses are typically only offered for sure only once per semester. There's one section to choose from. A lot of them, especially in your senior year, are only going to be offered once a year. So your schedule is really set for you, and it can make timing a little bit challenging to negotiate internships around that in a fall semester when you're in those 400 level CS classes. But the summer is a really ideal time to do that because you're not navigating that. And at that point, you have a lot of the skills in your tool belt to be qualified for those internships.
Are there any undergraduate research opportunities for computer science?
Definitely. Yeah, we have all of our faculty members within our department have research areas of interest, and many of them have funding to be actively pursuing those right now. And so we encourage students to talk directly with those faculty members. There is a course credit opportunity for directed readings under which you can get course credit for working with a faculty member on a research interest. A lot of times it does need to be pretty aligned with what they already have funding allocated towards, but that is something that we can offer course credit through to work directly with a faculty member in their area of research.
I have a question.
Sure.
Why do you feel students typically choose a number of these majors in the College of Arts and Sciences?
Gosh, I'll say for computer science and digital forensics, and then I'll turn it to Deborah for the CJ side of things. There's just such a demand in our field right now in terms of career opportunities. It is something that there's a lot of opportunity for in terms of being employed, but there's also just such a growing rate of different types of opportunities that you can pursue. So there's types of work right now in our field that didn't exist 5, 7, 8 years ago, and that keeps this field really exciting. So it's really an opportunity area for folks that have creative mindsets and have that go-getter personality that they want to go and create new opportunities in that way. It leaves those types of doors open. So it's just really such a rapidly growing and changing and exciting field. It's relevant to virtually all areas of business and the economy because everyone's relying on e-commerce, and there's just a lot of employment opportunities that come with that. I'll turn it to Deborah for criminal justice.
So I think for criminal justice, I mean, most people think of law enforcement when they think of criminal justice, but for criminal justice, there's so many different areas that you can go into. Yes, law enforcement, you can go into law, you can, do probation, family court, different things like that. And so, I mean, unfortunately, there's always going to be people out there breaking the law, right? And so we want to live in a safe place. And so students are always wanting to, help the community and give back and different things like that. So criminal justice has always been one of our larger majors within the College of Arts and Sciences, just because it is so diverse and there's so many different areas that you can go into. And so you can actually start in one area and then in a few years move to a different area. Wouldn't you agree, Professor Earwood, that it's a very versatile degree that you can continue to move and advance in?
I think I would agree with everything you just said, Deborah. And I think the only word I would add is service. Everything we do in criminal justice it's a work of service. If you want to serve in your community, if you want to help people, if you want to work at state, local, federal level, the opportunities honestly are endless, and everybody doesn't have to be a police officer. In fact, the vast majority are not police officers. The vast majority really want to just make the world a better place. So if you have that heart of service and giving back to your community, criminal justice is a great way to fill that. And I say it to students all the time too, and I know Miss Littleton does, but this field is starving for really good people, for sharp people who are smart and teachable and have a heart for serving their community. This is the major for that, for sure.
And I think that's very true. I mean, I could even say, I have a son in college and his major is criminal justice. And so when I asked him, hey, why do you want to pursue criminal justice? He said, because he said, I see a lot of things that are broken and I want to be the person that helps, correct things and, make things a little bit more fair for everyone. So I just thought that was kind of cool. So that leads to that, he wants to give back, he wants to serve, and he wants to help others. So I think if you've got that mentality, you've got that heart for service, criminal justice is definitely going to be a field for you because there's so many different areas that you can go into. You can work with juveniles, you can work with women, you can work with children, you can work with adults. And so it's just a very versatile degree.
Any more questions?
Are there any like undergraduate opportunities for criminal justice, like to get experience?
So I'll tackle that one a little bit, Deborah. If you mean as far as like jobs or internships or that sort of thing, is that what you mean? Just to make sure I understand what you mean. Okay. Yeah, so that's kind of interesting, and a good, really, honestly, a very good question. Typically, we intern in the last 30 hours, so that's like your senior year. But students ask me frequently, how can I get a little bit of experience, before I intern? Because there are so many options in CJ. Sometimes it's kind of hard to narrow down what you want to do. So here's what I tell students about that. There's kind of two ways of looking at it. There are a lot of part-time job opportunities in various agencies and companies. One company that comes to my mind right now is a company called Security Engineers. They're a private security company. They take a lot of our interns. They've hired a lot of our alumni. They have upper management in the company that are alum of UAB. And security engineers, when you think of private security, sometimes people think about, standing and staring at a doorknob or watching a camera for endless hours or something like that. Well, security engineers is way cooler than that. They do all the physical security at like the Honda plant out in Lincoln. They do all the physical security at the downtown Regions Bank building. They're huge. So they're very sophisticated. And if you think of regular law enforcement being responders, like, hey, if something goes down, I got to call 911, the police are coming. Well, private security are not reactive. Private security is trying to prevent things from happening. Like, we'd really like not to have to call 911. That's what they're for. So they use lots of technology on the private security side. It's not just cameras, but it's digital fingerprints. It's, it's looking at all kinds of behavioral things that people do. They do all the physical security up at the summit. You might see security engineers driving around up there. So they're really preventive. They're trying to prevent things from happening. And so they're very community oriented. And so they know business owners and they know patrons, and they do escort services downtown for the downtown business district when employees work late at night and they don't want to go out to their car at midnight by themselves. Well, security engineers will give you a ride to your car, that's the kind of thing they do. So again, very service oriented. I'm saying all that to say they are a great place for students to get part-time job opportunities. And we've had students that have done that have done excellently. You just want to go work some special events. If you are familiar with, in Birmingham, we have the Regions Golf Tournament in the spring. We have the SEC Baseball Tournament is in Hoover in the springtime. Well, Security Engineers does all the logistics for all of the protection of the players, all of the physical security, doing everything to make sure that people aren't bringing weapons into the ball games and the golf tournament and all that. So they're trying to prevent things. So they have employees that just work special events. They just do special events for them. So it's part-time and gives you some experience. So anyhow, all of those sorts of things, there are opportunities for part-time jobs. For students. I mean, once you turn 18, you can apply for any of the part-time positions that they have at Security Engineers. They won't let you carry a gun, which is great. You probably didn't want to anyway, so you don't have to worry about that. But then it can work into something full-time, or if it's just that job that kind of helped you get through college, that's worth it too. So.
All right. And you said that was the private security engineers?
Yeah, it's called, if you look them up online, they're called Security Engineers Inc., INC.com. Or if you just Google security engineers, they'll come up. But they're based here in Birmingham, and they're one of the largest in the Southeast, and they do a host of, you'll be surprised at all the things they do when you look on their website. They're pretty cool.
All right.
So that answer that for you, Brandon, does that answer it for you?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you are welcome. And by the way, you don't have to be a CJ major to work for them part-time either. Like, if you decide on something else, I'll be disappointed, but they might hire you.
That's most intriguing right there.
Okay, well, great.
All right.
So one of the things I was going to mention real quick about the criminal justice major, since Liz discussed digital forensics and computer science, and all of the math that you have to have. Guess what? For criminal justice, you only need math 110, which is finite math. So if you don't want math, come on over to CJ. We will go that route. Now, you can do pre-cal instead if you don't want to do the finite math, but we will accept the finite math. And our course, just like every other pretty much major on campus, our major is pretty specific in terms of requirements. So you'll take classes in policing, judicial process, corrections. You will take a statistics class in your major, but you're actually looking at crime rates. How do you figure out homicide stats, burglary stats? So even though it is math, it has the caveat of tying it to the field, so it doesn't feel as much mathy. But you will do like a research methods, ethics, as Professor Earwood talked about, internship. That is our capstone course for the major, and typically that has to be completed in your last 30 hours. So once you hit that senior standing. And then you also get to choose 12 hours of criminal justice electives of your choice. One of them has to be a 400 level, but some of those courses could be Serial Killers International. Those two courses seem to be the most popular that we see. We have a lot of law courses, so criminal law, criminal procedure, journey to attorney, trial advocacy. We have probation and parole, victimology, restorative justice. So we have a wide array of different electives that you can use in that area. The one thing I do want to mention about the criminal justice major is 42 semester hours. And so think about your degree. It has to be a total of 120 hours. Your course, 41, majors, 42. You have 30 something hours of just general electives to get you to the 120. What are you going to do with those hours? So when I'm talking with students, I tell them, you need to be thinking about something that's going to help you in, career-wise. Are you wanting to go to law school? If so, you might want to think about a minor in legal affairs. Are you thinking about crime scene investigation? Well, then forensic science might be a really good minor for you. If you are interested in those serial killers classes, a forensic psychology minor might be a really good option for you. So all of those minors that I just listed are within the Department of Criminal Justice. And so those are some typical things that you can do, but you want to think about, how will a minor help me with my future goal? And so with those electives, instead of just taking a random class here or there, put them towards something. And a lot of my majors actually can double minor. And I think that's a great option as well. So then you'll still have a few electives left that you can kind of play with. But those are things to be thinking about, long-term, what's going to be helpful for you.
The digital forensics curriculum is pretty similarly sized. It's maybe just a tiny bit larger, but it is one of our relatively smaller majors offered at UAB. So you have that opportunity for potentially a second major, but at least maybe a minor, possibly even 2 minors. And that's for digital forensics. For my computer science curriculum, it is quite a bit larger. So just from the Bachelor of Science in Computer Science, once you've completed your core classes and your major classes, you might have, depending on how much math you needed to do to begin with, you might have 1 or 2 extra classes that you'll need to take. I still have students with that major in computer science who want to add a minor, and that's perfectly fine. You absolutely can. You're just not quite in the same position hours-wise where you need all those extra ones to get to 120, but we still encourage anyone who's interested in that to do so. That's our Bachelor of Science in Computer Science. We also, a few years back, developed an interdisciplinary program called the Bachelor of Arts in Computer Science. It is still a bachelor's degree in computer science, but it is meant to require you to have a minor so that you can combine the skills of your major and minor into a little bit more niche of a field. So by far, the most common example of that I see with students is for those that are interested in graphic design. They might pursue the Bachelor of Arts in Computer Science and then a minor in art studio. you're combining both of those skills to kind of make a new field out of that. There's only 3 minors you can't have with the BA in computer science just because they're too tech heavy. So software engineering, electrical engineering, information systems. But beyond that, any other minor on campus is fair game. And a minor is required for the BA in computer science. It's not required for the BS in computer science. It's not required for digital forensics, but you can add them to those. But our BA program does require that piece.
Students always talk about organizations and what to get involved in on campus. What type of activities or student organizations on campus relate to these majors that they can actually join and will be beneficial?
Computer science has a UAB chapter of ACM, which stands for the Association for Computing Machinery. That's kind of our professional body for computer science majors. And they host very regular events. So they host LEET code nights. I would love to be able to tell you I understand what they do at those nights, but they work through computer science problems together, the competition where they work through different sets of problems that are given to them in teams. And then they also kind of walk through the problem solving process for that. So that is really good experience to get with that. But they also host different business mixers and networking events through ACM. So it's just a really good professional organization to be involved with on campus and to have those additional connections made. The Department of Computer Science, like at large, partners with the Career Center every year to host the Tech Connect networking event. We actually just had our annual one last Wednesday, where they invited almost 20 employers and we had over 200 students attend. And what they do is they collect your resume ahead of time and compile a kind of a handbook for the employers to be able to reference later. So if you submit that on time, you kind of have a chance to have that professional presentation on your behalf made to employers so they can reference back who they've spoken with. But that's a really great opportunity just offered through the department, not necessarily with a club organization.
All right, thank you. And I also see what Ms. Littleton put in the chat. You have the Criminal Justice Student Organization, CJSO. So that's something you all who are criminal justice majors, you can be a part of. Thank y'all so much for that. The gist I got of everything and in the College of Arts and Sciences within all these majors, it's just good to just be a well-rounded student. That's what I got from a lot of this. So yeah, grades are important. Getting into those programs are important, but also, you have to build a networking aspect as well. So when I found out about the LinkedIn from former alumni, that just proves the point that, you have to just be a well-rounded student and just build your networking base. So that was a great thing I got from this session. And again, I would like to say thank you from VMASC for coming to help us out with our majors fair. You all gave us a lot of great information. Deborah Littleton has put her email in the chat. So if you got any questions, any additional information you need to know, please email her. But thank you all so much.
Yeah, I'll just say thank you too. That was a lot of good information. Thank you guys.
It really was. Thank y'all so much.